Vincent, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Justin. I always love coming on a show at this time of the year because there's always something fun, magical, and mystical to talk about, right?
I love it. Yeah, and I think, I mean, I've done over 500 episodes, but I believe you're the first psychic medium that I've had on the show. So we can go to many great depths if you want to. We'll go wherever you want this conversation to flow to. But I want to talk about let's just kind of introduce it to my audience. What is a psychic medium?
What is a psychic medium? Well, I include a little caveat in that. I'm a psychic therapist medium. So, what a psychic is, we tap into your information about the past, present, and the future. Okay. So, that's kind of like Carl Jung said that there was a collective unconscious mind where all information resides, and that's including information about us. So I'm able to tap in there, but then again, we're all able to tap into that part. And that's also called intuition, which is really interesting, right? And so that's the psychic part. All right. Then the medium part is where we come from, Justin, is a dimension, right? It was where we were first created before all this physical stuff was created, right? And I was going to say physical nonsense, and at this point in time, it's about a bunch of nonsense.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding.
Tell me about it. All this physical stuff, right? But we're energies, and energy exists in these other dimensions. So when we leave our physical bodies, we go back to that dimension. Now, what a medium can do is just open up that channel, open up the intuition a little bit wider so that we can cross the veil and communicate with those who have lived here and passed on, or those who have never incarnated on the earth or anywhere else. So those usually are the angels and those kind of things, that they talk about in all different cultures, right?
Sure.
So that's what a medium is. Now, the therapist part is because I was getting into the minds of people, way deep down into the psyche. Watch out, Justin. I'm going to get into your psyche any moment now when we're in
I'm
trouble.
ready for it.
You ready for it? Okay. Well, I decided that I took that very responsibly, and it's sacred to me to be able to go into a human's mind. So I went back to school as an adult, and I got my BA in psychology and my master's in clinical social work so that I could be a psychotherapist and understand the mind upside down and inside out. So now everybody can say I'm both psychic and psycho.
No, I love it.
Therapist.
Yeah, a therapist. And so I'm so glad you did that, right? Because there's so many people that dabble in the spiritual realm. And they can cause harm, right? Because they don't really know what they're receiving, how to interpret it, and then obviously how to communicate that to people. I think that's the piece that a lot of people are missing. And obviously going back to school and getting that helps you really figure out, okay, what are we truly talking about here?
Absolutely. And when I do my sessions, and I use my skills and abilities, just so that not for entertainment purposes. Yes, is it entertaining? Great, but that's for TV, and that's for those that are on TV. Fine, not a lot of fun, really entertaining. Ooh, wow, the woo-woo world, right? But for me, it's another tool. They're both tools for me to be able to help you heal, unblock those things that are getting in your way and keeping you from, one, believing in yourself, and two, pursuing your dreams and creating the life that you desire. So that's why I use those tools. So that's why they're very important to me. And so, yeah, a session with me is like about 12 years of regular therapy. And I used to be a psychotherapist. And believe me, it took forever. I'd just be sitting there going, and you hated your mother because of why? Okay. And we were supposed to wait until the client comes to their own answer, because that's so much more powerful than if we give them the answer. And I'm sitting there as a psychotherapist and psychic and going, I already know that person's problem. Now, if we have to wait until that person gets to that answer, that's what's taking 12 years. And if they could get to the answer, they would have gotten it. Now, just because I give you the answer as to what's blocking you and what's going on doesn't mean that that's okay, you're all healed now. You still have to accept it, do the work, and all of that before anything gets healed. So it doesn't matter if I give you the answer, it just expedites your healing.
Yeah.
And I do want to throw in, by the way, the responsibility of a psychic, and you said those clowns. Well, because of a lot of charlatans and because of the damage that this could actually cause, over in the UK, it's illegal for a psychic to tell a person's future.
Wow.
You can tell them their present, you can work on their past, but you can't tell anything about their future because you should not be influencing the course of a person's life. And I absolutely believe that, because when I do give the future, I'm giving future options. I'm giving future based on the choices you're making as of today, but they can change at any given moment. So I'm still empowering you to let you know you're in control of your future, no matter what I tell you and no matter what I see. Right?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it set in stone? Is the future already written, or can we absolutely change
Oh God,
course?
no. We did come down with some predestined plan, but we created that, by the way. God did not create that for us. God does not have a purpose for us other than whatever we want. That's its purpose for us. And so we set up what we want to experience in this life. Now, once we come down, we forget that plan. Okay. We have plenty of tools, which, by the way, which is what astrology is all about. Astrology are the blueprints that we created for ourselves and some guidance tools. You know, a builder can build a home, and yeah, he doesn't need to use a set of prints if he's had a lot of experience, but chances are he's going to wind up making a mistake, going off, forgetting what he had in this part of the room or whatever. So he starts out with a set of blueprints, and they always get adjusted as he's building the home, right? I'm sure you've even experienced that or at least heard of that. Well, it's the same with us, except we even forget that we created those blueprints. And so it's still in our hands to go on that path if we want to choose that path. And once we're on it, we actually get those synchronicities and always those messages that we're on the right path, because things unfold a little easier than if we decided to do a different path, though we still have that free will to choose a different path once we're here. But right now, we're trying to get everybody on some kind of track, because people are lost, Justin. People are lost. And that's why I do the work that I do today.
So when did you, I have so many questions and can go in so many directions, but I want to backtrack a little bit. When did you know that you had this ability? Because I know you said anybody can tap into their intuition, anybody's able to do it, but let's face it, I as my awareness right now, I don't have this ability. When did you find out? Was it like a aha moment, or did you do the work to tap into it?
Wait a minute. Now I have to back up a second. You're unaware that you have this ability. That's because you never paid it, because this is the first time you ever had a psychic on to be able to tell you that you have the ability. Justin, you're doing a podcast. Where do you think all your ideas come from?
That's a great question. I have no idea. It just happens.
There you go. It's another word for intuition, by the way, is inspiration. And Albert Einstein knew that. Albert Einstein said, "Tell me what God is thinking, the details I don't need to know." And what he meant by that is he believed that there was a force, there was a power. He didn't necessarily believe it had a personality like you and me, but he knew there was a force there. And he knew that force spoke to us in inspirations or intuition. So every time he had an inspiration, he woke up one morning and said, time, I've got to do something with time. Well, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with time, but because I had the idea, that means I have to focus on it some way or another. And so he came up with his theory of relativity and time, because he knew once he got into it, the rest would be brought to him either by the universe, which we're part of, or by his own inner intuition, the information we keep flowing. So every time you sit down to want to do a podcast, and the next question, yes, of course, the guest can always preliminary way of speaking and give you an idea of what to ask next, but most of it is coming from your own intuition. So I want to clear that up right away. You're extremely intuitive, especially if your podcast is successful. It is successful, isn't it? I believe it is.
I'm proud to say it is.
Good for you. All right, great. So then I'm even prouder to be on this. All right. So here's where it came from me. I had no idea that this was going to happen to me. Before any of this happened, I was a professional singer, actor, and dancer. Now, I don't know if you knew that about me.
I did not, actually.
Oh, you did not? Oh, well, one of my claim to fames, and I might as well just throw it out there, is I was a singer and dancer in the movie Grease.
No way.
Yes, the original movie Grease. It goes back years, and I was 22 years old at the time, and I'm 20 years now. So it was a while ago. Okay.
I know the movie very well. I watched it a lot as a kid.
Did you? Thank you very much, because I keep getting royalties and residuals because of you and everybody else. People are watching it 4 times every single month all over the world. It's unbelievable. So anyway, I had no idea. I just wanted to be a famous actor someday, you know? That was my dream. But in hindsight, now when I look back, as a little kid, and I'm talking about from when I was 4 or 5 years old and I could start speaking, I was always joining in the adult conversations and interjecting with some piece of information. Of course, my Italian New York mom and dad smacked the side of the head for embarrassing them. But my aunts and uncles, actually, my uncle labeled me the little professor because, he's always coming out with it because he's got so much information. He knows what he's talking about. Right, that little professor there. But the funny thing was, I was coming out with truths and facts, and they couldn't understand where I was getting that from. I didn't know that. I was just speaking. That's all I knew. But I was the tormented one and the bullied one in school, Justin. I was picked on from the beginning of school all the way until I was 17 years old in my senior year. I was bullied. I was chased home every day. If they caught me, they beat me up. They shoved me in lockers, head flushed in toilets, spit on, peed on, stripped, thrown into assemblies. That's how it was in school. And one kid who was the class clown and also the super jock at the same time, so he had 2 things going in his favor. He was the instigator of all of it. And all he would have to do is just call my name, Vinny, and that was the cue for everybody else to start abusing me. And they would, right in the middle of class, in the middle of a test. It didn't matter. And of course, back then, the teachers did nothing. They just put their heads down, ignored it, and figured it would go away. So that's what happened. But I did the movie Grease, and it became an overnight success, right? And a few years later was my 10-year high school reunion. And I went back to it. And at that reunion, everybody befriended me. It was like a Cinderella story. I walked in and they were yelling, "Oh my God, Vinny is here. Holy cow." And it's like, because I was written up in the local newspaper and, all of this stuff went on. And believe me, I didn't even have a famous role in the movie. So I was in it, yes, and I was a singer and a dancer in it, but no name, nothing major. So that fame just turned everything around, right? And then that kid who caused most of my antagonism came running up to me, grabbed me, hugged me in a bear hug, and he wouldn't let me go. And from that night on, he kept championing me, and he became a really close friend, a dear friend, a matter of fact.
Wow.
But it was then that I realized something was going on with his life. I didn't know what it was, but this was the kid who would rent a Porsche to come to the reunion to impress everybody. I knew it was rented, and all you had to do is ask him how he's doing, and it was all about him for the rest of the night, right? Except my reunion night. But any other time was about him. Oh, I'm so successful at work. I married my childhood sweetheart. We have 3 children. I have this expensive condo in Connecticut. Yada, 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 yada going on. And I kept hearing BS, BS, BS. And I don't know why. One weekend, my wife and I spent with him. He invited us over to his condo because his wife was gone with the kids. They had gone somewhere. I don't know where they were gone for the weekend. So we were over there. But on the way home, I was in tears, literal tears, because I felt my heart breaking for him. And I was telling my wife, something's wrong with him. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, we're renting a house and he owns a condo in Connecticut, which is really beautiful. And he's so successful. I said, no, 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 something's wrong. I know it. I know it. I know his life is falling apart. And I started crying out to God, begging and pleading that God give me some kind of ability or way to help him. I didn't pray for God to help him. That was the weird thing.
Yeah.
And when I look at that, I'm going, wow, that was completely different. I prayed for God to help me help him. I didn't know if it was egotistical, but I was in such a desperate state. I couldn't even think that it had anything to do with ego. I just wanted to help him. That's all. And help people like him, because I knew what it was like to have your heart broken and your confidence stripped away. And I just knew something was really wrong and he was feeling terrible. Well, within a week's time, that's when the Steven Spielberg epic movie happened in my life, and all the paranormal stuff was going on, and spirits were coming into the house. And now all of a sudden, I start hearing these words. I'm trancing and speaking in this guide's voice from Joseph, and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat comes to me. All of this stuff is going on all around me at the same time, and I'm becoming psychic all of a sudden. And I'm being told by other psychics and people that I'm being introduced to that I'm going to be a spiritual teacher in 7 years. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I'm going to be a spiritual teacher in 7 years? I'm going to be a star in 7 years. I'm not going to be a spiritual teacher. I'm going to do a movie or something besides Greece. And it was crazy, Justin. That's how it began. And then, yes. And I went, and at the same time, I went back to that guy. I sat him down one day at a bar. I told him, shut your mouth. Don't say a word. I'm going to say everything. And I just knew. I said, your wife left you. She took the kids. You lost your job. You can't pay for the mortgage on the condo anymore, and you have to move. Not to mention your health is bad and you need several surgeries on your back.
Wow.
And you have nobody to turn to, and you're keeping this all in. And I want you to know I'm here, and you're going to turn to me now. And he got up and started bawling and hugged me and wouldn't let me go. And from that day on, I had been worked with him for a long time. He was my first spiritual student, even though I didn't even know what I was going to be saying to him, but it kept coming to me, right? I just knew things. I just knew it then. And yeah, so today he's my greatest fan. He sends people to me all the time. He's become a spiritual teacher himself. He's a light worker, shall we say, and he teaches people how to believe in themselves and turns them on to all these resources and things like that. So it was an amazing beginning. But I kind of dug my heels in. Even though that was happening, I resisted it. I did not still want to be a psychic or a medium. I loved that I was able to help him, but I'm like, I'm not doing this full time. I can't do this full time. I'm an actor.
It's so interesting because, like you said, it's we before we come to this human plane or whatever you want to call it, right? We make a choice for ourselves, and then so often we fight the calling, or we fight the thing that we chose, right? And so, what would you say to somebody who, like, how do we know if we're on the right path or not? Right? Like, how do we know we're headed in the right direction?
Well, I touched on it just briefly. Is the way you know is the ease of your pursuit. Okay. When you see things just keep constantly laying out in front of you, just falling in place. And you know some of those people, right? We tell them, we say that they have the Midas touch or something. Everything they touch turns to gold. It's like, no, it's just that they're on their path and they meet the right people. They're directed. They go in the right direction. Their lives don't tend to hold a lot of trauma or drama. Okay. Even though we're in a physical world and we're living a physical life, there is going to be some of that going on. Just like you drive a car, you're going to get flat tires, right? But it doesn't mean I have to end up in a 6-car pileup. So when you're following your path, you may get some bumps in the road. There may even be a detour that you have to go around, but as long as you keep believing in yourself and in your dream, which is what then motivates you to move forward, then you will find your way on that path. When you keep hitting dead ends and roadblocks, there's a lot of people that would like to say, well, God is testing me, to see if this is what I even said that. Okay. Even as something as simple as buying a home, right? One of our first homes that we were buying, we were renting up until a certain point when we moved. We moved from New York to New Jersey and then to North Carolina. So that's where I am now, North Carolina. So we're in North Carolina and we were going to buy our first home. And I received the message, no, this isn't the best home for you. Now, the funny thing is that when we saw the home, we really liked it, but I wasn't sure whether I really wanted it or not. But then I turned around and said, wait a minute, you're saying that, are you giving me obstacles? There were some obstacles in the house because of the windows, right? There was a problem, but they were going to fix them. And I'm like, wait, are you testing me here? I really love this home and want to buy it, and you're wanting me to get over my doubts. So I kept pushing it. Okay, we're meant to buy the home, honey. And I'd be talking to, no, we're meant to buy it. They're making me want it more by saying there's a problem. There's not going to be a problem. Well, that problem kept being persisting and they could not repair it. And I kept saying, no, I even looked up the numbers, the address. The address was like not good for me. And I'm like, nah, I know what you're doing. You're testing me here. This is like, that's because I had doubt and you want me to get over my doubt. So the more I was being told that you shouldn't really buy this house because there's a better one, and we didn't see any better one coming up, the more I believed that I should buy this house then. I want to get rid of my doubt. This is the house. And of course, right up until the last friggin' minute, they said that we'll let you out of the contract if we cannot fix the windows. Well, dang, the day before closing, we go to see the house, and my wife's head is almost guillotined by a window. She opens it, sticks her head out, and the thing comes slamming down, and she pulls it in. And I'm like, okay, all right, we're not supposed to buy the house. As soon as we said that, and we said, no, sorry, we're going to, we like our deposit back. And they said, no problem. We told you you can get it back. We didn't fix the windows right, so it's okay. My real estate agent, who was standing right there, puts in a call to her assistant, said, we need to come up with another house for the Gennas real quick. She said, you're not going to believe this. This other house just failed. It's a brand new home also. And the people who were buying it did not get the mortgage. So now they lowered it $20,000 because it was the last home in the phase and they want to get rid of it. Go see it now. It was an incredible home. And we bought it on the spot. And I went, oh, sorry. You were trying to tell me there'd be something else when I didn't see there was something else. So yes, can we push even when we get those messages, Justin, not to go in that direction? Yes, and a lot of people keep doing that and they get themselves in trouble, whether it be jobs that they knew they weren't supposed to take, but they took it anyway and now they're miserable. Partners that they end up either divorced or broken up after a short time or a long time, knowing in their hearts this wasn't the right one, but who else was going to come along? Everything. We can keep going down the line with everything that we do when we're not listening and trusting our intuition. So that's why I work so hard at trying to teach people to trust it.
Yeah, I love that. And again, we fight so hard for the thing that we think we want instead of just listening and paying attention. And I think, that story of you at the house is just the perfect example of like how often we try and do this, right? So I want to talk to you a little bit about how many times we come to this earth as a human and do it over and over and over again, right? They always say that this is like the testing ground, right? Like this is where we learn, this is where we get better, this is where we evolve spiritually. Now, you talked to Logan Paul, you were on his podcast. That's
oh God,
huge.
yes.
That's huge.
How could you talk about evolving spiritually and Logan Paul in the same sentence?
Well, because you talk about a past life of his where he was a female in the Middle East, right? So like, I've always been obsessed with this idea of past lives. I don't really know why I have an obsession with it. Talk a little bit about that and how you can kind of tap into that for other people.
Okay. First, so that you know, all right, why do we come here? We don't come here to learn. When we were created, if you think of the stories that we were told on how we were created, let's go back to the beginning in Genesis and stuff like that. All right, not every single word is not, it's not verbatim, but the story is there for a reason. Okay, we were told we were created, and we were created in its image. What did that mean? Everybody now made God look like a human. No, God was not created in our image. We were created in its image. So we're energies, but in its image means we have all the information it has, but we don't know we have it. It's within us. It's deep inside with our soul. And our whole goal for coming to this place is to experience ourselves. If we stayed there together, think of the sun and think of God dividing the sun into 100 little suns, but all those little suns stay together. Now, do you think each of those little suns could experience its own light by staying together in the whole? No. It would be overshadowed by everybody together in the whole big light. So they have to leave that place in order to experience their own light. So they already have the light. It's not that they're trying to develop the light. They already have the light, but they need to experience it. That's when all the physicalities of the universes were created. Not only our universe, but the universe that you hear the ETs coming from, those were all created at the same time. And we all at the same time got to choose a place to go to. We decided to come down, you and I at least, and all your listeners and viewers, all decided to come down here on this planet to incarnate, or at least be around to experience what we know. So it's the same thing when you go to school. You learn a whole bunch of concepts, but you don't really own those concepts until you have a chance to apply those concepts. So algebra and percentages, for example, until you went and bought your first pair of jeans and got 20% off, that's when you said, oh my gosh, that's what a percentage is. Okay, and now I get it. So we're down here to experience what we already know so that we can know eventually what we know. Now, you can act as if you know, but don't know you know. And that's where you see the good people. They don't necessarily have beliefs either here nor there, but they're acting good, right? Those are people who don't know, but are acting as if they know, right? Because of that information that's already inside there. But our evolvement is to keep coming back. So however long it takes you to get to know what you know already, then you're going to keep coming back here. Now, the average, and I'm only saying this because of some of the work that I study, I happen to love Edgar Cayce material. Edgar Cayce was our contemporary sleeping prophet. He was born in the 1800s, but in the 19th century, in a hypnotic state, he gave readings. And his doctor actually started that and hypnotized him because he had a vocal problem. He couldn't speak. He lost his voice.
Wow.
So the doctor figured, well, let me see if I can hypnotize him if it makes a difference. Well, not only did it make a difference, he started speaking, but he started to speak about how to heal this subject, this body. And the voice was saying that it was his collective higher self that was speaking. Okay. So then the doctor got the idea of, well, if he can heal himself, which he did, maybe he can heal other people. So he came out with 1,400 healing readings, which healed people from all over the world, because then as soon as they started to get to know this guy, so he was a sleeping prophet, he was great. He had all this material. He said that in his work, there's about 22 dimensions. And our job is to evolve to the highest dimension, the God force being the 22nd dimension. So we will keep coming down here to the third dimension to get to experience ourselves. And the way we do that is by coming in with a dream, a plan, a goal of some kind, right? Which is why everybody has a dream and a purpose. They may not recall it. They may have suppressed it because they believe that they couldn't achieve it in some way and they were being protected. But we all have a purpose. So you right now are an accumulation of several of your lifetimes. If you know that we've been on this planet for 11,000 years, chances are there, Justin, you were definitely from another lifetime. And not only do we keep coming down, we change gender each time to experience ourselves in different ways, orientation to experience ourselves with either the same sex or the opposite sex, and different ethnicities, right, from all over the world, to be able to experience as much as we want to start evolving and growing, okay? And remembering, because whenever you hear somebody who's supposedly learned something new, they will always say, that resonates with me.
Mm.
Okay. And that means something within them was awakened. So that's what I do, is I try to give as much information as possible to people and out in the world so that it keeps waking up information. Now, would you would love to know that you have taken with you in this lifetime some of the features that you enjoyed in a past life. Sometimes you take in some things with you that you want to strengthen because they were weaknesses in a past life, or some things that I don't want that, so I'm leaving that behind, but I want some other things. It's why you've got servants in the world, children that come in. Oh my gosh, they're brilliant. Where did they get that brilliance from? They were developing it from a past life. It wasn't their only time. I happen to be a singer, I'm a Sicilian, so I have a big voice, and a lot of Sicilians become opera singers, right, if they sing. And I was actually told that my voice came from when I was in South Africa as a female. I was a singer for the tribe. I was the singer that sang at the ceremonies, and that also brought in the tribe and gathered the tribe, which was really interesting. That was told to me by a past life reader who had no idea that not only am I a professional singer in this lifetime, but 22% of my DNA is from South Africa and Africa. Genna is not Sicilian, which was hidden. Okay, it's Arabic. Genna is from Tunis, Africa, and it means heaven. Go figure that. That's like, oh
crazy,
right? And so, yes, now, what I have fun with, especially with my guys or women that call me, I'm on the phone with them and I'm saying, by the way, let me ask you a question. Does your husband think he's a stud? Oh, God, yes. Oh, please. He's like, and does he stand in front of the mirror a lot? Yeah. Oh, my God. He would carry one with him every day. And does he like walking around the house naked? Oh, my God. It's like you're a fly in my house here. How do you know that? I said, because your husband was an ancient Greek Olympian. And their responsibility, the way you played in the Olympics in ancient Greece, 1, you had to be male. 2, you had to be built. 3, it was done naked. 4, you had to be hung. That's where the concept of penis envy comes from. So they were like, oh my God, that makes so much sense now, because I said, he definitely liked that lifetime and carried that into it in this lifetime. So many of those aspects, and I have fun that way with that one in particular, because it is true. But then there's also the rogues, the pirates, the bandits, the people who were killing others, tortured people. You know, not everybody was a king, a queen, a prince, or a princess back then, or an ancient stud Olympian, right? So yes, so we'll have about 20 to 22 different lifetimes. It's all we can handle, not 300. Though my grandson, at 3.5 years old, was driving in the car with, and he came in psychic, and he's still psychic now. He was driving with my wife, and he said, Grandma, I was born in 2004. And she said, no, you weren't. No, you were born in 2007. And she said, no, Grandma, I was born in 2004. No, your birthday is March 10th, 2007. He said, I know, Grandma. I was born in 2004. I died, went back to God, and 3 years later came down in mommy's belly.
Wow.
Now, he had never heard me yet. I wasn't going to be talking to him at 3.5 years old, nor had a conversation with him around, but he had that insight and recall. Sometimes we will come in fast. Children who pass quickly, they're taking care of some karma. Sometimes you don't even get to take a breath, but your soul is experiencing that for whatever reason that it chooses to go through that. It's for one up. It's for one way to get through something that it needed to get through. So yes, about 20 to 22, Justin.
Wow, that's super fascinating. And is there, I know you mentioned you carry some things from the past into this if you enjoy it. Do you do multiple lifetimes with the same people or same
Oh,
spirits?
yeah. Oh, no. We migrate, especially with all the people in the world today. My God, you could not possibly have incarnations with all these people here, right? We migrate from lifetime to lifetime together because you create a karma with each other. So your mom and dad were probably your sister and brother in another life. Your spouse could have been your best friend, your buddy, or your sister, or you could have been your parents' parent. Because how many times do children, as they're growing up, they're very young age, they're correcting their parents. They're telling mommy and daddy what they're doing wrong. It's just like, what? Don't tell me what I'm doing wrong. It's because they have a light memory of the fact that they were the parent, but they really don't consciously know that, but unconsciously, there's still that memory within the soul, because the soul is there. And the younger you are, the closest you are to your soul's memory.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a ton of clips online of kids recalling past lives, or I
Oh,
did this, or I did that. Like young kids are very, very psychic, it seems like.
yes. Because we just come in from the other side. It's fresh. You have to be trained to close off your channel.
Mm,
Okay. That's why I say, and my grandson being around 3.5 years old, they have enough mind development to be able to express themselves and to feel things, right? And that's when they become, or at least their psychic awareness starts coming out more. So you have a lot of children at that young age that are seeing spirits, knowing things. He even saw his great grandmother that he had never met and never saw a picture of, but she told him. And it happened to be his mom's favorite grandmother. And so it was just, those things are amazing that you hear all the time. There's a very famous story, and it's a book, and dang, I wish I remember the name of the book, but it's about the young boy who kept having nightmares that he was a fighter pilot in World War II, and that he crashed, his plane crashed and died. That was his nightmare. Well, when his father finally got into it and started researching it, not only did the kid recall friends, they went to a reunion, a World War II reunion with the old vets, and he met his best friend that was still alive. And the little kid, he's like 6 or 7 years old, and he's telling his best friend all about their relationship together. So it was a famous book that was written. There was even a brief movie a long time ago made about it. So there are so many stories like that. So yes, there's more than this physical life, which is why I'm so glad that you decided at this time to open it up to your viewers and your listeners, because they need to know they're more than. And when they're looking at this physical world right now, they need to know there's more than just this.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a message that so many people need to hear, and you try and get it across, but when you talk about it from a spiritual plane, it makes so much more sense, right? Like, so my next question for you is how do you receive this information? Right? There's a bunch of I've seen other psychic mediums, they all receive it in different ways. Do you see things? Do you hear things? Like, how do you receive this information?
iPhone. Um, there's there's an app on here. No, believe it or not, you think I'm joking? There's a group of scientists that are working with mediums that are talking with Nikola Tesla and Einstein, and them trying to create, because there is such a thing as physical mediumship. Matter of fact, physical mediumship actually became famous before this regular mediumship is. Physical mediumship was all the seances where they were bringing in and the tapping, and there's where all the charlatans were, right? The shaking tambourine and everything. But there is the capacity for certain mediums that have a certain type of energy that is capable of physicalizing things. So they figured if they're capable of physicalizing, then are they capable of electronically then physicalizing a connection? And they are actually working on a phone, and they're getting certain information coming through. It's going to take a while before it can be really clear where they can hear voices on a phone from the other side. So it's going to be easy. I'm telling you right now, in a few years, there will be an app, and Apple will be the first one to get it on the iPhone. I'm going to tell you, right? We laugh, but it's there. Okay, so there's the clairs, all right? There's clairvoyance, there's clairsentient, there's clairaudio, there's clairolfaist, there's Clairol. I'm Clairol. I used to use it when I wanted to get rid of my gray, and now I'm Clairol as far as being able to sense. So we have a mind's eye. In the metaphysical world, they call it the third eye. Everything has to be made woo-woo and mystic as soon as the New Age movement came out. And that's why people turn against it. I try to normalize it. I'm a New York Italian, right? I wanted to come down in the gutter with everybody else because I want it that real, right? And so it's not a third eye. It's your mind's eye. Your mind thinks in visions. That's why we call it an eye. You have an inner mind's ear. That's why you can talk to yourself. Or hear a song in your head over and over again. It's your mind's inner ear, right? And then, of course, there's that knowing, that gut feeling. There's physical sense, right, that we feel. And then we can smell. So when I connect, I actually can do all of those. I can see spirits, so I'm able to describe them. I can hear them talking to me. I get a sense of knowing. I get a sense of feeling their emotions. I'm known for being able to bring back a spirit and make them alive again to my receivers. Whenever I do a platform demonstration, they're called, or I have gallery readings for people. I just did this in Sedona. And given who I am and the personality I have and the fact that I'm a psychotherapist, the hardcore spirits come to me. The ones that died of drug overdose, the ones that committed suicide, the ones that were shot in a fight or killed in a fight, they will come to me because the people that are alive, the survivors, need healing. And so it becomes very emotional, and I'll feel them, and if they're crying, I cry. I feel they're crying. And so I allow myself to feel what they're feeling. And so all of that can happen. Now, most people generalize, if you pay attention to your inner voice, you'll hear. Most of the time, we jump to our left brain and talk ourselves out of everything. So you'll hear your name called and you'll go, well, that was just my imagination. But meanwhile, it could be your deceased mom, your deceased dad, or your best friend, or anybody like that, right? Trying to let you know. And then all of a sudden, a song comes on the radio that you and your partner shared that is also deceased. And either you accept it, oh, wow, I was just thinking about you and I can't believe this song was played, or you'll just say it's a coincidence. There are no coincidences. Everything is a synchronicity here. Everything in this world, this is an organized universe. Even the chaos theory proves that it's organized. Because if you ever saw the chaos theory, they show you the pendulum, how it swings all out of the way. But if you leave it long enough and you watch it long enough, it makes beautiful concentric circles and perfect. So even chaos is organized and orderly. So therefore, you cannot have anything spontaneous or random in an orderly world. So everything happens for a reason. That song that you're listening to, that you happen to be there or tune in at that time, is because somebody is trying to say hello or give you a message. And here is proof of that, okay? There was a day that a father woke up in the morning and said, you know what? I got home late last night, honey. I'm going to drive the kids to school so that I can spend a little bit more time with them. I'll go to work late. Somebody else woke up and said, I'm taking a me day. I haven't taken time off for me, and I'm just calling in sick. I'm just going to relax today and veg out. And somebody else is like, yeah, I got a bunch of chores to do, but if I do them after work, I'm going to get home late for dinner, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to just go and work late this morning. You know what morning that was?
9/11.
9/11. And they followed an intuition. Your intuition does not speak to you in warnings, and it doesn't speak to you negatively. It will always guide you in another way. I don't know how many more souls that day gave warning that way, or tried to tell a person, do this instead of this morning, and they talked themselves out of it. I don't know how many of them had a plan that we spoke of earlier, and then how many of them were caught up in the negativity of the world. I don't know that. And I'm not meant to know that just because I'm a medium. But what I do know is that there were those, and they have survivor's guilt, but they still listened to some inner voice. And that's the problem. We don't honor our inner voice, Justin. But just like you just said, look at you, I am not going to use the word normal because you're way beyond normal. That's for sure. Thank God for that. Okay, you are nothing like normal. And this is what I mean. But listen to what you said. I don't have intuition. I don't know anything about intuition. And yet you are living from it and you are following it. You just never labeled it. And if you just, as well as anybody, just take one extra step to see that as an ability, how much further will it take you and how much greater will it become?
Yeah, it's so true. Just having that intention behind it would change the game. So I want to ask you kind of a more personal question. So my mom passed away 9 years ago. And for many years, I always felt her presence. I don't really feel her presence anymore. Now that is it removed? Is there a chance? And you don't have to answer this because I know people pay you.
I can answer it. I will answer.
Is she back in another, living another lifetime? Like, why is that you feel it and then you don't?
And then you don't. That's an excellent question. And that happens all the time. And a lot of times it happens right in the beginning of their passing. Okay. So there's a couple of things going on. First, I just want you to know, very rarely do we come back quickly. It usually is because there is no such thing as time in the other realm. So by the time we figure out we want to experience something else, 300 years have gone by, maybe 100. Rarely do we bounce in and out. Okay, my grandson was one, and I never even asked his soul why he did that, but he did remember that. Other people have done the same thing. That's number one. Number two, when we die, you hear all the near-death experience people talk of a light and talk about seeing people and them telling you, no, it's not your time, stay back, go back. Okay. When we're completely deceased, okay, what happens is we need to acclimate to our new existence. So we will see somebody that we know, some people, a group of them, to feel comfortable because we're in an uncomfortable condition now. We no longer have a body and we're just energy, so we're acclimating. So we will hover on the earth for a period of time. Now, it's funny, but again, there are religions that tend to express that. Jesus stayed on the earth for 40 days before he ascended into his Father's heaven. That's what he said. Well, The rest of us do the same thing as we're acclimating. Yes, we do go to our own funerals, just so that you know. So all of the ones that are living, anybody who's deceased, give them a real good one because they're watching and they'll haunt you otherwise. And cultures know that because there is always some celebration of pray for the dead, pray for those who've just moved on, right? Because they are hovering. That's when survivors and loved ones that are alive will feel the spirit more. They dream about them, they feel them, they see them, whatever that senses that I know mom is still here. I know my brother is still here. That's because they are hanging around. Then eventually they do fully ascend into that dimension, but still keep coming around for a while. But Life is not done just because we're in the other dimension. We were told that the kingdom of heaven is within us, it's not a place. That means that there is work to be done here. Well, there's work to be done there because you take everything with you except your pain, your body, but you do take your personality, you do take your issues. So if you're going over there with remorse, you have to work through that. So there's a schooling going on there. The difference is over there, you're supported and filled with love support around you, not like over here where you have to go find love, right? And
Yeah.
support your network. So they're helping you over there. So what then will happen is they can move on, they can be doing, and that usually distances the time that they come down here to see you. But the moment you think about them, you think about your mom, and you just turn around and say, hey, mom, you ever want to come by and visit me again? That's okay. She'll come by because she gets that message. But yes, then at sometimes they do go on. Now, the other part of it is once you're on the other side, you've got to collect yourselves. You, Justin, is just a single essence of your whole oversoul that God created. God did not create 8 billion people, nor did he create all the billions that are on the other planets and in the other universes. He only created a certain amount. It only created a certain amount, okay? We created the individual essences from that point on to experience ourselves. So you get to go back as Justin to then face your other past lives. It's at that point you decide whether you want to meld all together again to the whole soul, or if you want to experience another part of you, and I'm going to take you, I'm going to take you. It's kind of like you're making a recipe for the next life if you want. But yes, so mom right now is doing, a matter of fact, I'm being told she's doing some of that work, but she said she has not forgotten you. She says, you're so busy, she doesn't want to interrupt you. And she'll come down and she's laughing. She said, you don't even know you're psychic. Now you want to say that you're a medium too, and you see me. So open up the door and you'll see me more. She said, I'll come down. She says, especially there's some holidays coming up. I love coming and visiting you around the holidays, especially. So you feel me. Allow that to open up for yourself then, Justin. But yes, she's working and they're working, but they will always come and visit. That's what happens. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense, and I appreciate you saying that because it's crazy that you said the holidays because that's huge for me and it was huge for her and that's really cool. And she's always
I'm sorry, I
ribbed
didn't
me.
mean to interrupt you. You're interviewing a psychic medium, and you just said it's crazy that I said that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
I mean, you think
you expect
I felt that?
you expect these things, but it's still crazy to hear, right? Like when there
I
when
know
there
it
is
is. I'm joking with you.
yeah, it's been a fascinating journey for me to figure out the spiritual side of things, right? And I've been deep into it for a number of years and had some bad experiences and pulled away, and now I'm in a journey now where I'm diving back into it a little bit more and really trying to discover that. And so I'm certainly going to work on tapping into it a little bit further and be more intentional about it after this conversation, which I love. So what obviously we talked a little bit about what happens when you die, right? How long do these souls hang around, right? Because you're talking about people are hanging out with Nikola Tesla. He died a long time ago, right? Like, what are we, what's the time frame here, do you think, when you're usually
That's another great question. It's more about how long do they stay as individual separate essences? Okay. At any given time, as long as there's the earthly plane, and as long as there's people on Earth, and as long as there's people on Earth calling to those that are on the other side, we will keep ourselves going and individual until we're seeing that it's time to pull together. Now, so in other words, Nikola could have been part of his oversoul already. And then down here, there's a group of scientists. Well, if you really think about it, since he died, he would not have come and gotten rid of the Nikola part because so much of his work is still going on.
Yeah.
So he would be hanging around and at least giving information. And that's the same with all of them, all the way down to Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, he is still giving information to people because of all the problems that are down here. We have not perfected ourselves or evolved enough for any of those souls to move to the higher self. Even Jesus turned around 2023 years ago, right? And he's been gone that long, is like, you call upon me at any time. So that he's our big brother and sister, by the way. He's our big brother. He came down here to remind us who we were, not who he was, because we forgot that. We pulled away from our higher self, that God source, that spirit, whatever you want to call it, that's part of who we are. And once we pulled away and forgotten ourselves, that's how we got so messed up. So back then, he tried to remind us. So he's still around, and so are the other ascended masters, Buddha, Muhammad, all of them are still around trying to help us and give us guidance because we're so messed up. So until that's done, and eventually it will be done, and quite honestly, Justin, I don't know if that's coming up soon, because the way things are going, I'm more reading the earth than I am reading people.
Yeah.
The earth is the result of the people. Okay. So what you see going on in the world and the destruction from the environment, right, is being influenced by the behaviors of the people. We're energies. And we were told when we come down to this world and this physical plane that our energy has dominion over everything physical. And what did that mean? Not that we can play with it and do with it what we want, but that we're going to influence it. We're going to influence. We influence our bodies. Every illness is caused by us. Everything physically that's going on this planet is being exacerbated by us. Yes, there's going to be storms, but they're not going to be storms that wipe out an entire area and city. Over here in North Carolina, the western part of North Carolina is devastated.
Yeah.
Absolutely devastated. They can't even get in there enough to fix it up. And they never expected, they never had a hurricane, they never had a storm. So we're going to be hearing of these unprecedented things that are occurring all over this planet. So I don't know how long that we have to go in this direction. All I know is we got to get our act together. And can we? Yes. When I'm told that, forget it, you've hit the point of no return, I'll be told that. Will either my whole family, my soul will be gone, we'll be leaving, whatever. All of us will be leaving. I don't know, but I know that as long as I'm here, the way it is, that we have hope. And we can make a difference. And people like you are being inspired. That's the reason why you're being drawn more into the spiritual understanding again, because there is a truth spiritually. And what is spirituality anyway? Spirituality is our definition of ourselves as beings, related to a higher force, ourselves related to others, and ourselves related to this world. That's the definition of spirituality. And however you define that is your spirituality until you get to really understand what it really is. And so your intuition is pulling you because of the need now. It's needing to open up, needing to bring on somebody. It's so funny that you brought on somebody like me who tends to normalize this stuff and make it less woo-woo, even though I still am going to talk about it. Yeah, to some people, it still sounds kooky that you're talking with dead ones. But how kooky is it when you have conversations with dead people all the time? It's like, whether you know that it's reaching them or not, you're having a conversation with them. People do it all the time. But because I do it and I'm saying it's real, oh, then that's kooky. No, it's scary for people. They don't want to know that that really exists, even though they need to know that that exists. So yeah, I even forgot what your question was, but hopefully I answered.
No, you're good. It's so fascinating to think about how our energy collectively is affecting the weather, right? Like you think about the hurricane that ripped through Florida just recently. There were like 24 tornadoes during that thing.
Yes.
It's unheard of. It's absolutely unheard of. So what?
And I'm sorry to say, how much negativity is in Florida?
There's a lot. There's a lot for sure. I mean, the Florida man itself brings enough there. So So when we
Yes.
look at like that, how can we as a collective, right? People listening to this episode, us, you and I, how can we as a collective start to shift it back? Because I'm worried about the next generation, right? I'm a stepdad to two kids where I'm worried about them. I'm worried about where the world is going.
I love your questions, and they're all insightful, intuitive questions, and I will constantly reinforce that for you. Okay, you're saying a word that we need to change: collective. Collective. We have plenty of collective organizations. I was a social worker. As a matter of fact, in school, we had to pick a focus, right? And there was a few of us that was micro, which meant working with each individual person, but the rest wanted to start their own new agency, another new agency. I'm like, oh, that's another piece of the pie that the government has got to send money to, right? We got these groups all over the place. It is not the group per se that is going to do the healing. It's the individual that makes up the group. That's why my book, The Secret That's Holding You Back, I wrote it all about that. You have to heal yourself. This is part of opening up that channel and that psychic ability, is cleaning the stuff out of the closet. Most people don't believe what they think they believe. They think they believe in themselves. They think they believe they're lovable. They think they believe they're good enough. And yet their life is not reflecting that. The outcome of your individual life is a reflection of your true beliefs. So if you don't have the right partner, if you don't have the job that's rewarding and fulfilling, if you don't have the perfect health, if you don't have the finances that are abundant and allowing you to live the life you want, then that means you don't believe what you think you believe about yourself. And so you cannot heal the group, and collectively, you cannot come together as a force or a power until the individual of that group is healed. The chain is as strong as its weakest link. So therefore, we have to work on the links. And so it's the self-healing. And then what happens, and Neil Donald Walsh wrote about this in Conversations with God, which, by the way, he's going to be on my podcast, The Genna Effect. I'm so thrilled about that. Neil is one of the most famous spiritual and metaphysical book publishers, authors, not publisher, even though he publishes his own book now. He wrote in it, I wish you people down there were pure selfish. That's God talking. I wish you were really all selfish in the true sense of the word. Because if you were, you'd be doing nothing but working on yourself, and you would automatically extend that out onto others because of how good it feels. I do my work. Yes, because there is not, I get these emails, and all week, I don't know why I got them this week in particular, email after email. You changed my husband's life. I cannot thank you enough. He's a new person, so happy and going after his joy. And and you changed my life. And that makes me go, oh my gosh, that makes me feel so good. You know, have you ever watched a movie by yourself, Justin? Right.
Yeah.
And you absolutely loved it. Right. And then what do? You tell your wife, you tell your friends, you go, oh my God, I saw the most amazing movie. And you know what? Oh, you're going to go to the movies? I'm going to come with you too. I got to come with you, right? That's what I did with Star Wars. When I saw Star Wars, I brought all my friends to see Star Wars. Why? Not only did I enjoy it, but I enjoyed them enjoying it. So I help because my life is great. And of course, there could be more in it, but I am so thrilled of anybody that I've helped, and they're enjoying their life now too, my brothers and sisters. So you don't have to worry about the group. You only have to worry about the individual, because so many people are hurting. And what you're seeing when you've got group destruction, that means the individuals in that group. And it doesn't take a group. One man decided to bomb an entire country, not a group of them. One man did that, right? And that happened. One man caused the extermination of 6 million Jews. One man sent planes into bombs. So why are we focusing on the group when it's the individual that needs the healing the most? And when you do that, it will then go into the group, and the group will then heal the world. And that's where the healing gets going.
I love it. And what's the title of your book again?
It's the secret that's holding you back. I just happen to have a copy of it right there. Look at that. It's on Amazon. It's also an audio book published by G&D Media. And believe it or not, it's hysterical. My publisher calls me and says, "You're not going to believe this, but an Arabic book publishing company just bought the rights to your book to translate it into Arabic." And I realized I know why Arabic, not Spanish, not French. It's because Genna is Arabic, so they figured I was an Arabic book publisher author. And so they wanted my
That's
book.
amazing.
I know, really, but I'm hoping that it's in the hands of some of those people that it needs to be, and so they do some healing. Because they do. It's all about that. People are lashing out because they are so hurt, because they've been abandoned, they've been abused, they've been rejected. And when you do that, you become just like Cain in the story of Cain and Abel. You overtake and kill the goodness inside of you because the hurt overwhelms you and it turns into anger. So yes, so that is what the book, and it's all hidden inside of us out of a protective mechanism. So you don't know, you don't even know. See, like I said, you don't know what you believe about yourself. I know more about what you believe about you than you do. And I'm right, by the way.
That I absolutely love it. I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate the work that you're doing for the world. How do people reach out to you? How can they work with you? How can they book you? What's all the good stuff?
All they have to do is go to my website at vincentgenna.com. They can hook up with me there. They make an appointment with me through there. They can hook up with my podcast, The Genna Effect. I've got a few hundred podcasts on that with great information on that, a lot of insight. Also, any of my other social media platforms, they can go to that and see the different events that I do around the country. And what's so interesting, I'm called the Tell It Like It Is psychic because I'll get down in the dirt with you and I'm not going to mammy-pamby you. The way I put it real quick is this is the way I do my work with people. You and I are walking down the streets of Manhattan. We're engaged in deep conversation, but I happen to look up and I see a baby grand piano being hoisted from the 40th window up to the top someplace. And all of a sudden the rope breaks and the piano is headed towards us. Now, I've got one of three choices to make. I can either run quickly to the other side of the street and say, "Sucker, that's your karma, not mine. I'm out of here." Right? And bam, just watch that. Or I can do what like some of my other colleague friends say is that we really shouldn't interfere in another person's life. And I can gently tap you on the shoulder. Look, I don't really mean to tell you what to do or anything like that. By the time I get out the sentence, we're already dead. Or I grab you by the shoulders and I throw you out of the way and I jump out of the way with you. Now, in the process, you might sprain your wrist, even break an arm by me getting you out of the way, but I saved your life. So how would you like me to work with you today? Do you want me to tap you on the shoulder, mamsy-pamsy, or do you want me to save your life?
I love it. Vincent, thank you so much for doing what you do. Thank you for this conversation. This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, gosh, Justin, thank you, brother, for allowing me to come onto your show. You're kind of like a lighthouse, allowing us lights to be able to get out and give the message to others. So thank you for that.